Evening. Apparently I'm live, which is always nice to know when you get it confirmed by a piece of software on your iMac screen. How are we? Oh, a couple of people already in. So just a few hellos. Hello, Doug, and I assume Sam is in there as well. Now I've got an echo. Hang on. I just have to get rid of that. Okay, fine. That's gone. Good. We have our Australian reader, Fleur. Nice to see you. Ridiculously early. I'm always impressed when you turn up. And Sam as well, of course. Oh, and Andy and Rachel in. So nice to see you. And anyone else. And of course, if you're watching this in the future, then how is it? Has the pandemic finished? Is it all over? Please tell me it's all over. Yeah, I mean, bloody hell, it is getting a bit like Groundhog Day, isn't it? There's nothing new to say. And there's nothing new to say. Both of those things are true. Who have we got? Frank, nice to see you. Everything is well with me and my family. Thanks very much. Hope yours too. And of course, Paul Guitar 100, the 100th of the Paul Guitar clan, and my brother. So nice to see you. Right, so tonight something a little bit different. I've bent his arm on this one because a couple of weeks ago, was it a couple of weeks ago? You see, time has no meaning anymore. I went on Caimh's book club, Caimh McDonnell's book club. Now, if you haven't read any Caimh, you're pretty likely to have read Caimh McDonnell stuff because I have mentioned him quite a bit. And he's followed the Douglas Adams school of thought when it comes to naming his trilogy, which is to have 4 or 5 books in a trilogy, which I've always admired. And a very funny writer and a top bloke. So we thought we'd talk crap for 40 minutes for your I can't even speak anymore. I'm a bit worried about this beer. I thought I'd have a beer tonight. And I poured it out. And as I did so, I checked the can and it was 6.2%. So I don't know if you've ever used this piece of software, StreamYard, before, but I can see Caimh. He's in the corner of my screen waiting, and he's just heard me say that the beer is 6.2%, and he's left. Oh, no, he's still there. Okay, but he looks quite worried. Oh, so there we go. We have an admission already. Trish, you haven't read any Caimh books yet. Well, you must. You absolutely must. The latest one, I know Trish. I think actually maybe start with The Stranger Times and then go back and read everything else immediately. I insist. Otherwise, he won't stay. Right, so just very quickly on the news front, because ostensibly the reason for this live stream was for me to keep you up to date with the writing. This week has actually been a slightly more productive week than the last few. Probably around 8,500 words, I think, which considering last week was still around the 5,000 to 6,000 mark. Things are on an upward trend again, which is good. I killed someone yesterday. I killed someone today. I have plans to kill someone on Monday. So this is really quite a nice part of the book to be getting through. Oh, and there we go. Just before I bring Caimh in, I love Caimh's books, says Sam. I read them during the first lockdown. Maybe need to reread them to remember them, though. Well, surely they've stuck in your memory indelibly, Sam. Although I have forced you to read my stuff as well, so. Oh, not putting that comment on. Oh, I love this. This is going to make all of us authors feel better. Still ploughing through here, Magica, like it's a burden to read a book. Go on, Trish, you can make it to the end. Actually, I don't do it anymore. I just forget about it. If I can't get on with the book, I leave it. Right, so without further ado, let's bring on Caimh McDonnell and have a chat. Here he is. Caimh, how you doing? What are you drinking? Let's start with I mean, you're Irish. I've worked that out after knowing you for a little while. So
the clues are all there. It's actually just it's Caribbean rum and Diet Pepsi because I don't fulfill stereotypes.
Yeah, that's your thing, isn't it? Rum and Coke.
Somebody gave me rum for my birthday. Joe Hollinsworth, a friend of mine, gave me one for. Myself and a bunch of comedians went for a ghost tour. I think it was a couple of years ago now, but we went to Ghost Tour in Manchester, and Joe was the only person who gave me a present, and the rest of them were all like, well, "Were we supposed to get him a present?" It was like typical blokes going. but I didn't drink it for ages. And then, like, literally one night, because I don't know, I just sort of pulled it out and had a drink and went, "Oh, hello!" And he got was a very nice bottle of Kraken. And now it's all I drink. I don't even drink anything else.
Our local, it's not the nearest pub to us, but it's a really nice little pub up the road run by a guy called Ian, and his drink of choice is rum. So he hasn't got a great whiskey selection, which is more my thing, but he has got a fantastic rum selection. So I have tried quite a few rums. So I kind of see where you're coming from. It's one of those drinks, if you just drink the cheap stuff, and that's not that bad either, actually. I'm not that fussy, but you can get into the really good stuff, can't you? And there are some quite connoisseurs of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pretend. I think I've tried 3 different ones. One was from M&S I didn't like. This one I like, and Kraken I liked as well. So 2 out of 3.
But you are putting Coke in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not some. I write characters that drink whiskey all the time for some reason. I think it's because they're Irishmen, and it weirdly it feels wrong for. I actually had that recently where someone said that Bancroft in The Stranger Times drinks whiskey, and they were saying it was like Thingy from the Slough House books, from Mick Herron's books, and it's like going, it's a bloke that drinks whiskey. There's loads of them in books. Like the belligerent drunk is not a new invention.
There are quite a few, and you don't specify the whiskey with Bancroft, do you?
No, because I think that shows clearly how, because he is drinking any old shit as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He feels like a character who maybe used to drink the good stuff. Yeah,
he's very much a functional alcoholic, but seriously alcoholic. And he is. The whole point is he is trying to sort of slowly kill himself, even though he wouldn't put it in exact those terms. But yeah, so that's the thing. But yeah, but I've never been I really like. You probably like them too. I don't know if you've read the Orphan X books by Greg Hurwitz.
I've only read the first one.
I really enjoy him. I do really enjoy him, and it's like sort of James Bondy stuff for anybody else, but it feels like he's kind of managed to, a genre that frankly gets done a lot. He's managed to find an interesting take on it.
Yeah,
as a view for that, to be fair. I mean, that's genuinely in that genre. Much as I hate to give you comments, you have managed to find a fresh take on that, because a lot of people are basically just kind of copying Lee. I feel like a lot of people copy Lee Child but don't get it right. Like it's like they're copying the wrong bits. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably a lot of people fancied writing thrillers. I've had that in my head for long. I've read all the Jack Reacher books. I think Lee Child has a great writing style that I really admire. And I thought, what a great idea. You have a character that you can just take from book to book to book to book to book. Everyone knows where they are. If it's a hit, then you're enjoying writing them. It's golden. So it's been on my mind for a while, but I just I couldn't write Jack Reacher because Jack Reacher never changes. And I realized as I've written Bedlam Boy, I've realized I can't quite do that. And I feel like Jack Reacher, there's no real consequences with Reacher. And it's the way it's written. He knows it. Everything's deliberate, but I can't write that way. There have to be consequences. There have to be effects on someone's life. And so the feels ended up quite different. But I have got a character I can take from book to book, but I don't think it'll be for 35 books or whatever.
No, I'm the same. I weirdly with the Stranger Times, I actually thought I'm going to make these more standalone, because the bunny books are always kind of fairly heavily dependent on the other ones to a certain point. And then I look back at the Stranger Times and went, this is way more, like the second book is way more, there's loads more to sort of to explain before you start on that one. And that's one thing I do notice in the Greg Hurwitz books, by the way. He does have to build on previous books, and right. It is a great writer that he is. It's very noticeable the where we are so far jump in the first couple of chapters, where there is just like a page where he basically explains the premise of the whole thing again every time. And they just feel they have to do that. Maybe it's American publishers. It must be very hot on, you have to explain just in case someone's picking it up for the first time.
I almost feel like you should have it. I don't see the problem with having like a separate page, like some films you watch and they'll just have, a bit of text and say, it's 2084. Rock and roll is illegal.
Yeah,
whatever
but I guess
it is.
But just explaining the premise of a character, I think, is quite like.
Yeah.
Joe Abercrombie actually does. He did a thing on his website because he writes fantasy books. Anyone who doesn't know Joe Abercrombie?
I've read one of his trilogies. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm reading
the
most recent one. It's yeah, and that's not the one I read. But the most recent one is fantastic. And to be fair, I can honestly say, as somebody who wasn't, I got kind of read the first one, was blown away, waiting for the second one to come out, and read it as soon as it did. But that was like 8 months difference between the two of them. The writing was so good that you actually remembered who everybody was through the writing.
Wow.
Because and there's a lot of he's spinning a lot of plates, but Joe Abercrombie is an absolute master. I don't care about whatever genre you're talking in. Joe Abercrombie is a phenomenal writer, and I was blown away by how good his books were, because he creates such vivid characters, and that they're brilliant. He does humor effortlessly, while never taking away from the story. He's one of the most impressive. I'd say in the last 10 years, of all the writers I picked up that I probably haven't read before, Don Winslow and him would be the two guys I think would be the most impressive, I think, certainly in the last 10 years that I've read.
Of course, you're saying he does humor effortlessly, and I think people would say that about you, but of course it takes a hell of a lot of effort to do effortless humor.
Yeah, well, to be honest, yeah, but Joe Abercrombie is definitely, he's building a whole world more than I do. Whereas the humor thing that's the part I find easiest. Is the other stuff that I need to, like fight scenes. I remember talking to you about fight scenes before, and I do have to give fight scenes a lot more thought, because I don't have your history of violence, Ian. Let's be honest.
Well, I saw it as research.
Yeah, and look, that guy was basically asking for it. Let's be clear.
All three of them were.
Yeah, they can do a lot with wheelchairs these days. There's no, in a way, they're more convenient than legs.
I agree.
Yeah, he's getting great parking now.
Yes.
but genuinely, I don't. And I've sort of, one of my favorite fight scenes, the ones I've written, when I find ways around it to do something interesting. Because bar anything else, I do genuinely think this when I watch films and stuff now, and actually when I read most books, when I read them. I think fight scenes are generally fairly boring, because
I agree. You have to find another way in, and something different to do with it. Ideally, not just a list of injuries.
Yeah, or just are people describing that this fist goes here and this fist goes here, and you go, I don't really care. And it's sort of, as Robin says, it is like a dance scenes, and done well. They're brilliant that way, but like Birds of Prey, for example, just as use a film example, which is the sort of DC spin-off, which was sort of spin-off of Joker and all those sort of things with Harley Quinn was the main character. It's all female-led thing. Yes, and the film sort of got a bit slated. I actually enjoyed it, but what I thought most impressive about it was the fight scenes in it, I maintain, are some of the most interestingly done I've seen in years, and I think it was noticeable that director clearly had a great vision for, let's do something interesting. Like they were doing stuff where they were in a roller rink with roller skating and stuff, and there was a few other different things, and they just did it in a refreshing way. And I get quite sort of blasé. It's like Deadpool has that amazing scene. I know some people don't like Deadpool. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I don't care what anyone says. The 6 bullets scene is a brilliant. When he counts the bullets. And he's going, there's way more than 6 of them. And he has to figure out what he's like. And then he wastes a couple hilariously. So he's only got 1 left. And then he has to do the ridiculous spin over the top shot where he kills 3 people. And that was, like Robin said, it was a dance scene. It was done incredibly well, though. The humor was brilliant in it. And I maintain Deadpool is a masterpiece. And some people say it's an awful piece of crap. And it was all self-referential.
It was great, and I'll tell you another, maybe in a similar vein, film that some people really got a downer on, and possibly because he is a bit of a pretentious director, whose name was just falling out of my head. But you're going to tell me now, or am I going to get it back? This is the guy who directed Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrel.
Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie, yeah, who talks like he's a bit of a geezer, but actually has got a very posh public school education. Yeah, which always makes me giggle a bit. But
he's literally landed gentry, I believe.
Yeah, pretty much. I think you're right. So it's pretty funny. However, Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, they're a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. Those 2 films. Child 2 loves them as well. And the fight scene in that, when So it's the mind, isn't it? So he works out the whole fight and the possibilities before it even starts. So if I do this, then that might happen. And so every possible eventuality, and then the fight is over in a few seconds.
Yeah, no, that was great. And
Great idea.
I love that sort of thing. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I know there was a fight scene in, I think I'm going to say Disaster Inc., one of my books. And it was genuinely, there was a fight scene in it. And I really like it. And the reason I really like it is Bunny, the main character, gets his ass kicked and he loses. And it's not like, just the way it worked out, there was some refreshing things where it's him explaining his rules of how a fight works, or, me explaining the rules he has about how a fight works, and then him absolutely getting creamed while it's happening is brilliant. And he literally loses it all ways up. And that's great because then later on, obviously, the same guy, him and the same guy go again. And fight scenes, the Lord of the Rings going to virtue. I agree. I think most films suffer from the Transformers issue. Well, look, to be fair,
Smashy. What's happening?
Yeah,
which robot am I supposed to like? I've forgotten.
Yeah, there's a good 6 or 7 Transformers issues, to be fair. Not least the main one is how they treat women. But
yeah, oh my god.
Yeah. There's
Michael
one
Bay
point where
and the long leery glance.
There's one point where someone seems to be leering at their own daughter. I mean, that film has a lot of issues.
Oh.
But the fight scenes are just tedious in it. And I agree, in most films, they are tedious. They go on. And actually, there's a lot of, I can't see. I can remember, like, in the cinema, trying to sit further back because a lot of the time I can't even see who's doing what.
I thought that's what was great about the second Bourne film. There's a fight in that when he's in this guy's apartment. He ends up with blowing the place up by putting something in the toaster with the gas on. The guy's got a knife and he's got a rolled up magazine, and it's really fast. The camera angles everywhere, and yet you always know where you are. Yeah, and it's the same with but you've got far more to do. Far more you can do in a book, because you can take a moment between someone drawing a hand back to punch you and then tell a whole story about the relationship he had with his mother. It's your choice. This is the thing, and you can make it far more interesting, possibly, by doing that, by making those choices.
Oh yeah, you can do all kinds of weird stuff, which I do really love about that. And actually, the Bourne films were great as well. For the little bit in the Bourne film, which I actually saw Matt Damon in an interview pointing out, and he was dead right. The bit, because remember the first Bourne film, people forget this now, but they kind of did revolutionize the genre. Like, they literally had to change how they did Bond films, because Bourne films made Bond films look really outdated. And now, frankly, Bond films are copies of the Bourne films with extra product placement. As far as I'm concerned, I find it really hard to watch those films now, because I swear to God, the Avengers films do it as well, of all films. But with the logo of the car comes right up to the screen here, so you cannot possibly not notice.
I know this is going to shock you, but I believe that Iron Man drives an Audi.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, they all do. Funnily enough,
Child 2 tells me that, and this is actually a real problem with product placement in films. Although perhaps we should get it into books. A bit of extra on grief. But Child 2 tells me that if somebody uses an Apple product in a film, they can't be a villain. It's actually written into the contract. Apple won't let their products be associated with bad guys.
Brilliant. Oh, that's true.
It's like spoiler. So the guy picks up the phone and it's an Apple phone. You think, good guy.
Yeah, nice guy. He's by the way, my point with the Bourne films, by the way, was we've lost him. He's gone. He's forgotten where he is. No, he's back.
He'll definitely be back.
My favorite thing with the Bourne film is at some point before he drives away. Oh, there we go. Hello.
He's not looking at you. He's looking at the biscuits. But carry on. Sorry. When he
I've lost all interest in me as well now. Hello. But yeah, there's a great bit in the Bourne films where he looks at a map of the area. Like, he lets you get into a car. There are people coming for him, and he picks up the map and looks at it. And he just think, of course you'd have to. And then thing is, once you've done that, you can then do the ridiculous going downstairs things and stuff. But it still is more realistic.
They really did change the game with those films. This is from Dilla. Hang on a second. This is what. Look at this. I've got complete control over this dog creep.
Hang on. He's
there we go. Do you enjoy the Bunny McGarry books? Excellent. I'm glad.
Come here. Dylan, turn around. Nope, he's off. He
Ah.
was there a minute ago. He's gone again. He's very troubled because this is the first time in a year tonight. I am the only adult in the building because basically our bubble is a friend of ours called Martha, and normally she comes over to us every Friday night. And tonight, for the first time ever, Elaine has gone over to Martha's. So I am in a house on my own with the dog for the first time in a year. How weird is that?
I can't remember the last time I was alone in this house. Actually, yeah. So that must feel really strange.
It genuinely does. I mean, the dog freaked out because we also had to drop Elaine off, so he was on his own in the house for half an hour, and he didn't destroy anything, thankfully. But first time in a year, he was on his own for half an hour, and he's still, traumatized by that. But yeah, it's the weird times we live in, and we've actually been a few different places because we were in isolation in Ireland and stuff. So we've been, I don't want to show off our jet set lifestyle, but it's the same way as we've got a week in Derby at the end of next month, and it fits in that we're going at the right time that you actually can do it.
Yeah, great.
I am so amazed how incredibly excited I am by the idea that I might get to go to Derby for a week.
Oh,
I'm literally dreaming of it. It's like normally I've done how many gigs there and stuff, yeah, but it's odd times. But anyway, should we be talking about books or something?
I suppose we should. We never, just while we're on the subject of gigs, I mean, I did stand up from 2003 to about 2007, but sort of wound down most of the regular gigging in 2004. Oh,
I didn't know that. I know you sort of had. I know you'd helped out in the old comedy world. I didn't realize you'd actually.
No, I did. Yeah, no, I. This is there's something weird about my personality, Queeve, because I got to the stage where jonglers were offering me weekends, and then I stopped.
Best place, really.
But no, yeah, I did proper gigs. But I don't think we crossed over, sort of time wise.
I started in 2001, so we would have been knocking around for around the same time. I left London in 2004, moved to Birmingham, and I was doing sort of most places then. Although Jonglers, I was quite slow to get in with them. My flatmate was Gary Delaney, and weirdly he was in with Jonglers, and I was in with the Comedy Store, which is
I never got in with the Comedy Store.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how I managed it either, but I was in with them for a while, but that's comedy's weird that way, where some people like it, some people don't. To be honest, the Comedy Store in Manchester, weirdly, Gary lives just outside Manchester, is a phenomenal act, and he still doesn't get put in there for weekends. And you're like, what are you doing? He's just up the road, and he's willing to do it. He can fill a 600 seater in Manchester on his own.
Yeah, it's a strange world.
So there you go. That's comedy bookers. I mean, it was a strange world, and then COVID happened. But there you go.
Yeah. Well, we're both long out of it, but me much longer than you, and I only dipped a toe in really. But yes, okay. We didn't work together, but we could have. I worked with Gary a few times, so it's weird that it never happened.
He'll probably remember you. He has a freakish memory for these things.
Well, he would then. Just say the bloke with the keyboard around his neck.
Yeah. He would have. He would have. I mean, I'm not giving anything away there. He would have bloody hated you, mate. He can't stand musical comedians. I mean, he has mates that are good musical comedians, but it really annoys him that
lots of comedians hate it because you don't have to be that good. You get to the end of a song and it's like a trigger to the audience to he's played that chord now. It's like an automatic thing, so you can have weaker material. I'd like to think that my material was reasonable, but there you go. You can get the truth from Gary.
Yeah, well, to give some context to it, people genuinely, other comedians refer to anyone with a guitar as having the 6-string applause machine. That's the phrase that thing. My favorite moment actually, there's a brilliant and genuinely brilliant comedian called Rob Deering, who's a musical comedian, and he does stuff with loops and stuff, very clever. But I remember years ago doing Jonglers in Cardiff with him, and it was one of those things where a gig starts off, he's on stage, in the first minute and a half, a stag do of 30 guys came in and they seated them, so they disrupted the whole thing. And the thing is, as a comedian, the first couple of minutes you have to grab them, as you know, and they just kind of messed up his opening completely. And then, so he normally tries to work a bit more without the guitar at the start, and he was but it was sort of got so disrupted by literally 30 guys strapping in front of him. So he at one point went, Because this is a main drop. Mickey Flanagan, myself, and a guy called Dave Johns, who was in films and stuff recently as well. We were in the dressing room. You could hear everything, but you just hear Rob go, "Ladies and gentlemen, my guitar," and he points to his guitar, and someone at the back of the room went, "Thank fuck for the guitar." And I always remember the reaction because we all went, "Ooh," and literally it was like all three people in the room had just been walloped in the nuts because it was such a viciously, perfectly timed shot. And look, I should say, by the end of that set, Rob Deering had that room eaten out of his hand because he's very good. But at the time, you did hear it and go, "Oh my God, that person must have been a comedian to hit
come back
to get that right dig in there was something else." Anyway, sorry, we were supposed to talk about books or something. So remember,
well, this is what I said, that this is a very relaxed live stream. I try every now and then to make it quite focused, but to be honest, I think the sort of people who will drift into YouTube and enjoy this they're just in the mood for a bit of distraction, and we've got a talented person on screen talking, so they'll be perfectly happy. But
I did say, be big into Santa Claus. That's our.
Well, yeah, I think it's working for you to be it.
My dad even said that. And I video conferenced my dad. He's like 84 for his birthday at the weekend, and he just looked at the camera and went, "I see you're still doing the Santa Claus thing." It's like, happy birthday to you too.
Okay, just before we move on to books, then we have a question. Are there videos of either of your stand-up sets on YouTube?
There's bits of me. I think some of me doing the comedian. There's some footage of me supporting Sarah Millican, I think, in the big one in Cardiff, the national one in Cardiff, that we might put up somewhere at some point. Because there's people keep asking me that, and then I'm sort of going, well, there's no reason not to put it up. So I think I probably will put something up. There's some quite sweary ones of me from Edinburgh and like doing the Brighton comedy on my YouTube channel, I think. But I do need to put up a proper one at some point because I ain't doing it again.
Yeah, that's I know what you mean. I got dragged back in for a few support slots on Paul Zerdin's tour a few years ago, and I probably hadn't stood on a stage and done comedy for like 7 years by that time, and oh god, it's felt weird.
Yeah, really I honestly now. I was talking to Elaine about it, and my memory's so bad. Like the big finale 5-minute routine at the end of my set, big story. And I was like, I don't know what it, like. I literally, she had to explain it to me. It's like, it's the potato fucker thing. I was like, oh, how did that work again? So did you remember the guy came into the office and he did the thing with the thing? And it's like, so I honestly think I'd have to sit down. Like literally from a few years ago, there was a routine of mine that was I kind of came synonymous with, which I eventually dropped, which was the zoo story about taking my 2 nieces to the zoo. And people said, "Oh, would you not do that before you finish, like, and record it? Because there's no good recording of it up anywhere." And I was good. And then I was talking to Gary about it. I actually said to the lady, I went, I can't remember it. And then Gary took me through it line by line. He went, "All right, it starts off here. This. Yeah. But he has a freakish memory. Like he does like to remember his own stuff. For anyone who doesn't know Gary Delaney, so he's very much one-liners, perfectly crafted. Like he says things in those lines in the exact order, or they don't work. And he spends a long time figuring out the exact order. But he has like
the pauses.
Yeah, everything. he literally has a mind palace like Sherlock to remember a tour show. And I've been there when he's putting it together and stuff like that, and it's phenomenal to see. But yeah, whereas I can't. I was like 6 different bullet points and just trying to remember that. I still get them in the wrong order. But
yeah, and I actually literally sold my finale about 10 years after I stopped. Another comedian, he's not that far away from you. I think he's north of Liverpool somewhere. Bill Wooland, his name is.
I know the name.
All right, he'd seen it a few times, and he just called me up and said, "Do you fancy selling me that your tribute to Andrew Lloyd Webber with sex toys?" And I went, "Okay."
Excellent. Mind you, the weirdest selling something story. There's a story Gary has, which happened in London, and it was in the London before he started comedy. He was in a place called the Comedy Cafe, and the guy who was running the gig was in.
Hannah Chambers' gig, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was before Hannah's time, though. Actually, no, it wasn't a Comedy Cafe. It was this guy ran another gig, and they went. That's what they did was they came to the Comedy Cafe for a drink afterwards, and he saw this guy on stage, and it was a black comedian. And oh, is Alexa? Shut up, Alexa! You're embarrassing me. God, I can't bring you anywhere.
You're alone in the house.
I actually did that. I did that genuinely for a laugh when myself and Lena are having constant arguments about Alexa and how she doesn't understand us. And genuinely several weeks ago, I put a reminder in, just taking the piss, going, Alexa, wash penis. And I put it in as a reminder. And no, please don't do that.
I'm sorry. I can't find anything
on talking for 2 minutes. I have no idea what
Yeah, that's it.
Alexa, cancel. I don't know what that was. But yeah, I put that in. I like just messing. And then I forgot to. And then the next night, our friend Martha, who's there after the bubble, was here for dinner. In the middle of the dinner, Alexa just went, reminder, wash penis. And it was one of those things where you try and explain the story, but you go, it doesn't look good no matter which way you say it.
Yeah, there's no way of, you might as well just give up.
Yeah, you might just go, you know what, I did. At least just go that. At least I did. I did. But yeah, what the hell were we talking about? Oh yeah, no, sorry, yeah. So Gary's and him and Eugene are watching this, and this black guy's on stage, and Eugene went, I said, oh, that's hack. Like what he's doing, very lazy stereotypes and all that. And then a guy came up to me afterwards and went, oh, Eugene, I was just wondering, if I could get a gig at your things, I'd really love to do it. And he went, to be honest, mate, I've just seen you, wasn't impressed. I just thought it's very lazy. You're using a lot of racial stereotypes, and I just feel like it's very, you're setting yourselves back. I don't think it's a great idea. I think it's, in this day and age, you need to be doing more interesting stuff than that. And the guy just went, I haven't been on because it was a different black comedian.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now that story is hilarious, but Gary told that to somebody. Somebody bought that off him, a guy called Boopy Grafo, and uses it and does it as a whole big thing, and it's brilliant. Boopy. And then the really weird thing is somebody else recently, before I was doing a radio record, who's a comedian, was I don't know very well, but for some reason this story came up, and he told me the exact same story, except it happened in Manchester, and it was Toby Haydock, who was the MC, who was my friend. And I said, this thing happened. And I was like, I didn't want to correct him because it would be rude. But I was like, I then rang Gary and went, how weird is this? And he went, oh yeah, that story's, I've been told that story back with different venues on it several times. But that's just a weird way about, yeah. So there you go. Does that answer all your questions about books? I feel like we've covered it.
Well, every time, I don't know, maybe there should be a new thing about authors getting together and not talking about books.
That's a good podcast. Authors don't talk about books.
Yeah, I can see it because we love to talk about other stuff. And that you always get, how all these different things feed into your writing anyway. I mean, all those experiences on the road you had, you're well traveled because when you gig, I remember that's one of the reasons I stopped doing the stand-up. I was doing music before that, and then I went back to music, and of course I was used to putting the miles on the clock with music, but stand-up's a different beast. It's like 35,000 miles a year or something, because you get in the car and drive all over. You drive somewhere for 10 minutes, a 10-minute spot, and then you drive somewhere else to do 20 minutes to close another place, and then you drive somewhere in the north for go to the stand at Glasgow or whatever, and it's just absolutely all over the place all the time.
I mean, as we were discussing before we came on air, my back is a bit screwed up, and it's a lot of it is from sitting in a car driving 40,000 miles a year. So yeah, no, there is that thing. It's also, by the way, it's really odd because I gave up, but by the time I gave up, I was kind of doing less and less. I was just doing tour supports for my two friends basically, so I wasn't doing it that regularly. So in hindsight, I kind of tapered off, which was a sensible thing because I know friends of mine a couple of friends in particular come off big tours, and like for the next few weeks they have headaches and stuff because your body gets used to these adrenaline rushes. But the really odd thing was the pandemic hit, gigging obviously shut down. And for the first time ever, all these comedians, somebody, if they had any sense, would have done some kind of medical research into it. To be fair, I guess medical research was a bit busy at the time. But it would have been fast because there was all these people having... Yeah, funny something. But there was generally all this stuff was it was genuinely like all these people having sort of weird effects and physical effects from not performing, and it was really odd to see people asking each other questions about it and having chats about it. Yeah, because like I was always a terrible sleeper, and now I go to bed, I'm in sleep by midnight every night without fail. Previously, I went to sleep somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. That was just my body was at that clock, and then I'm like to the point where my wife at the thing went, bless her, she's such an understanding woman. She just went, don't come to bed later than 5 a.m. because then there's not enough time for me to get back to sleep before I have to wake up again. So she was like, could you just come to bed before 5 a.m.? And I was like, yeah, no, I will. I'll try to do that. Didn't always manage it, but I did try because, I'm caring that way. But yeah, Robin, 30K. Yeah, at least 30K. This is 30,000 miles now. None of your kilometer nonsense.
Well, no, hang on. This is Nova Scotia with Robin, isn't it? So I'm guessing, you drive 130 miles to go and pick up your milk.
Post. Yeah. Yeah, but then you've got to do over sometimes 20 to half an hour when you get there. I mean, we're not really. It's not coming across how arduous that is. Plus, these are on British roads, and people have hit 40 miles an hour on those things occasionally, but it's only been legend.
Yeah.
I can remember that was the biggest thing someone asked me about. What do you not miss about stand-up? And he just went, the M6. It's like straight away, the M6. I've been saying it for 2 years. It was the reason I wanted to stop. And then when I did, I was so happy to not see the M6 anymore. I admit I'm the same. I don't miss the driving. And it's weird. We went out in the car today and realized it was the first time. Well, it was Ruth and me in the car at the same time. So that's got to be months since that's happened. I mean, which is the first time in our lives. Yeah,
it's really strange. I don't miss that. It's nice actually.
Yeah. No, we sort of drove to the ferry in Ireland and stuff to go to Ireland and stuff, and we drove down to Birmingham at one point to pick up my niece, and she came and stayed with us for several months, which is so odd because you kind of forget she did because she just stayed in her room and then came down for dinner. It was like she just dropped over every evening because she's 19, so she just stayed out. She just did her own thing all day, so we never really saw her except for a couple of hours. She basically came down, ate some food, watched that Michael Jordan documentary with me, and then left again. And it was like you sort of forget she was really here. But there you go. It's 30 miles per hour. Well, people do drive ridiculously fast in Ireland, but not in places they should be.
Hello, Shell. It's been a while. Yes, I remember being in a van with a band in Ireland. I'm trying to think where it was, around Kilkenny somewhere, I think it was, and we were doing a tour with a tribute band in the early 90s, a tribute to the Everly Brothers. It was, and we came not exactly hurtling around this corner on this road, but we come a fair lick on the way to a gig, and had to stamp on the brakes when you've got all the gear for a 6-piece band in the back of a transit van. About it when you stamp on the brakes, and it was because in front of us was a tractor. It was dark, mind. Tractor with no lights on at all, and a trailer, and a bloke sat in the back of it with one lantern, which he was holding. He was sitting on the back of this trailer as if to say, "Well, I've got the lantern. I should be fine. This should be safe."
Yeah. To be fair, Ireland did have genuinely the highest death rate on the roads in the whole of Europe for a while. It was like a national thing. They actually put a guy called Gay Byrne, who was like
TV guy.
Yeah, he's like Terry Wogan times 10. I'm trying to think of anyone who it'd be, but he was like he's basically the godfather for the whole country. He retired from broadcasting. They put him in charge of it. It's genuinely was like the most powerful man in Ireland. Yeah. And he was part of the commission. Because I used to go out with a girl from Kilkenny, and I remember driving up on a Monday morning to go back to work and stuff. And they just get, because the roads were bad, but then people just drove like idiots, like overtaken around a corner, and you go, you're not even going to know how you died, you fucking lunatic. But yeah, there was a really bad culture of bad driving in Ireland, which I think has gradually improved, and also the roads have improved. But yeah, it's but yes. So anyway, talk about a book then. Go on.
Let's do 5 minutes on books and then call it quits. Because I like you've embraced a waffle, and I think we all love you for it, Queeve.
Mate, I've got that on a t-shirt.
Well, talking of waffles, and again, I'm going to mention Child 2. Child 1's not getting a look in tonight. I'm sorry about that, Child 1. But Child 2 has drawn our attention to an internet phenomenon at the moment, which is, if you look it up on YouTube, I think it's creeping closer and closer to 10 million hits. And I hope I'm not giving too much away. If you imagine this is a waffle, I think it might be even called Waffle Falling Over. And it's a waffle stood on a work surface, and about 3 seconds after the video starts, it goes, and the video finishes. And something about the fact.
Puts your book sales in context, though, doesn't it? If that's getting 10 million views, you think, how many books have I sold? Not that impressive when you look back on it.
Yeah, exactly. But so maybe this is the way to market a book. Rather, what you need is a meme.
Just have a book slowly falling over.
Or something amusing happening with your book, but it mustn't be traditionally amusing. It's got to be something where you have to kind of make an effort to make it funny. And when it got to a certain amount of views, I think that automatically became funny to watch it. So people tell other people about it. Oh, yeah, have you seen the video of the waffle falling over?
I do have a video of a monkey ripping one of my books apart. That my friend Brendan and his wife Andrea worked at a monkey sanctuary in Ghana, and I sent him a book. I actually sent him 2 books, one to have the book and one to get it ripped up by a monkey. I actually said, is there any chance you get a monkey to rip this up? And he's like, yeah, they rip up stuff. Yeah, that's no problem. And I have footage of this like sort of spider monkey just sort of ripping pages out of my book. I found it hilariously funny, but it wasn't the viral hit I was hoping for. I won't lie to you.
But you never know what's going to be, do you?
Yeah. Speaking of which, when are you going to dance, Ian? I mean,
well, I'm not going to. That was I said I'll do it.
Whoa! I came here. I was promised dancing.
Let's just get to the bottom of this. What happened was I admitted that I do know how to floss, because I think it's if you're a musician, then I mean you're a drummer, so it'd be no problem for you. Basically,
I know a lot of musicians.
If you wanted to floss, the secret to it's a polyrhythm, because your hips are in 4/4. They're just doing this. Okay, they're backwards and forwards. But then your hands have to be in 3 at the same time for it to work. And once you've got that, once you realise your hands are in 3, your hips are in 4 or 2, if you like, then you're done. And I said, yeah, I'll floss for a large donation to charity. But the Just Giving page hasn't been set up, so it's not going to happen. And my wife has insisted. Well, she said basically, if I want to remain married, I can't do it topless, so that's not going to happen. But the flossing could still happen. And maybe it'd be good for your neck and your back, a bit of flexibility. I don't know. Might be worth a go.
I'll have to consult some medical. I mean, I'm not. I mean, let's be clear. Dancing is very much your thing. I don't want to. I've shaved my head for charity because this grows back. I don't want to show off, Ian. I know it's a sensitive subject for you, but there's tons of this stuff. I mean, literally, I've shaved my head fully twice, and give it a week, boom, it's back. Okay. Tons of it. Got to shave my
maybe we haven't we all? But it's just you got money for charity from it. I had to pay.
Yeah.
This stuff here, I have threatened. I've said, there's a ball patch. I'm 52. It's going. I'm quite happy to lose a lot, but I'm being held back by dressing gown woman, or Mrs. S, as we know her, and she says that it's not a good idea, and she keeps insisting that it's fine. I've still got enough hair, but I don't want to be that guy, where you think, why did he just shave his hair off? Yeah, all right. Thanks. No one's impressed with your bloody hair.
I'm just saying the comb over. Do you remember the comb over? I don't think anyone does it anymore.
Well, I think it became the butt of so many jokes that it was just you couldn't, in all conscience, do it. Bobby Charlton, was it?
I
can remember Absolutely, was it Absolutely where he did it? It was a Scottish comedy program. If it wasn't Absolutely, it must have been the other one.
I can remember my assistant headmaster in school had one. He had and I can remember in a high wind just watching it. Like, it was incredible.
It's like a lid.
Yeah, and it was
use some product to keep it down.
For some, I just remember he was a tall man, and for some reason his nickname was Duck, which makes no sense. I generally look at the back and you go, why was his nickname Duck? It didn't look like a duck at all.
Perhaps you didn't want to know.
If anything, he looked like a ball swan. But yes, so there you go. Here
we go from back to the joys of the meme culture. I quite like it. It's almost surrealism. It's almost Dadaism. It's got the Monty Python, the silliest Monty Python stuff. Doesn't make any sense on paper at all. If you said, bloke does a little dance and hits someone with a little fish, and then the guy gets a big fish out and knocks him into the harbour. Okay, that does sound funny on paper. I'm wrong. Yeah. But there are things that don't work on paper, and yet you see them, and you just think, I don't know why that's funny, but it is funny. And then the third or fourth time, it becomes funnier, and that's this whole meme culture, and it is quite good. So we need to get our heads together and work out a way of promoting books.
Doing a meme, through a
meme.
I do remember. Sorry, so just you randomly thought about things being so much funnier than they are on paper. Just to go on another tangent from your meme thing. I think it was Hayley Ellis, a friend of mine, but I didn't know her at the time. But she had an amazing. Do you remember the dog that won Britain Got Talent dancing? The dancing dog.
Yeah, now a dead dancing dog, and got replaced with another dog, right?
Oh wow! You brought the mood down considerably with that little tip.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, the name of the dog. Someone will know.
It was a little terrier that danced with this girl, and then basically Hayley pretended to be that girl, but the dog had. I think if I remember, the backstory was the dog had gone to Hollywood or something. The dog had signed a big deal, so it was no longer with her, but she was still honouring the bookings, and she then did the exact dance routine from Britain's Got Talent. Without the dog.
Wow.
Just her on her own doing it. And again, it doesn't sound that funny, but it was hilariously funny. And this is how funny it was. I'd never seen Britain Got Talent. I didn't know the routine at all. And I still found 2 minutes of a woman dancing with an invisible dog hilarious.
I'm going to have to watch. That must be online somewhere. The one that... Was it James Acaster who did a routine where he did a football team and just missed out one letter each time in a sort of chant, and it went on for about 6 minutes? No, I'm exaggerating. It was maybe 3 minutes, but it just seems to go on far longer than it should. And it got, what shows the confidence of the guy, because it did that thing where it's funny, it's very funny. Okay, now it's not actually that funny. No, I don't know why you're still doing this. Oh God, I'm laughing again. Oh, you got me.
Yeah. No, he's brilliant. Acaster's a genius. I genuinely really like his stuff. But yeah, that's a classic example of something like that ends up being hilariously funny. I'm trying to think of other examples of things that ended up being hilariously funny. There's a guy called George Egg who does all kinds of weird stuff like that. Oh yeah, the bowling ball in the briefcase was his opening. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. He now does. It's amazing, George. He now has a brilliant thing where he just does weird cooking using odd things like cement mixers and stuff. And it's great because he was a lovely man, and but he's now kind of got this. Obviously COVID's messed everything up, but he has this thing where he's doing all this stuff about making home meals in whatever you have in a hotel with just the kettle and the thing and stuff. Just really clever stuff. But it's great when Kettering Town FC. That's the one. That is the But George Egg is doing all this stuff, and it's great when people find something like that and sort of the thing that works for them and really breaks out. Yes. Well, I remember, I think I only worked with him a couple of times, but I remember him really clearly because it was just, there's no one else doing anything like that. Yeah. But the Tim Vine bit with the pen, trying to catch the pen. Yeah, trying to catch the pen in his ear. Yeah. I remember seeing that in his video. No, but stuff like that. And people have criticized the circuit quite rightly, the comedy circuit, that whatever happened with the comedy circuit, a lot of the weird stuff got sort of taken out with the comedy circuit. Yeah, you had to go to the things like the Aztec Comedy Club. Do you remember that? Is that South London near Crystal Palace? It was in the Mexican restaurant, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. One of my first gigs, I imagine. Well, that was one. And there were the Bearcat was my first gig in Twickenham, and you would often get a really good mixer. You get quite a big name on, but you'd also get some really quirky acts. And I think, that's what you want to see, surely. Yeah. Oh, that is. I always said when people talk about comedy books and stuff, and I always said the book someone should write isn't about, and like autobiographies of famous comedians and stuff are interesting, and some of them are good. Look, I've got mates who've written them, and some of them genuinely were good books. But I think the book that would be so much more interesting would be a biography of the circuit itself, talking about the weird acts, the ones that didn't make it. There's some amazing stories. There's I can't remember the guy's name. I actually met him my first ever gig, and he's just one word. I can't remember his name now. But there's a great story about him being booked in for this competition, where it's like 50 quid for the winner for this comedy night thing they had, where they're having a comedy competition at this pub in the country somewhere. And he turned up, and nobody else turned up. And he went, "Oh, nobody else is here, mate, so we're going to cancel it." It was like, we didn't really get the word round. And he's like, "Oh, I'm here anyway. I'll do it." So he went up and did 10 minutes, died on his arse, and came back to the guy and went, "They're going to get me money." He was like, "I'm not paying you for that." So he managed to gig his way out with 50 quid. And there's a couple of like amazing cracking stories. But there was a guy who was started off with me and Gary, did a joke with a sink, like a full kitchen sink, a big metal thing. And he basically did one sort of silly pun about it. He brought it on stage with him, did one silly pun about it. And then the big laugh was it never got much. And he went, "I had to bring that on 3 tubes to get here." And that was why it was funny. And I actually met him a few years later, and he'd stopped. And I said, "Why did you stop?" He said, "Oh, someone nicked the sink." So,
actually, that's a really good idea. Someone should write that book. Or I wonder if they ever recorded all the guys doing open spots on up the creek in Greenwich. And the amount of those, because this is for those of you who don't go out to comedy clubs regularly. Up the Creek was quite a famous one run by Malcolm Harding. He was no longer with us, but he was famous for his terrible introductions. He introduced me, as he introduced many first timers, as right, we've got this bloke on now, John, I think his name is, maybe Andy or something, I don't know. He could be good, could be crap, probably crap. Here he is. Yeah. And the bloke who was on after me did his act with a paper bag over his head, and someone shouted there's quite a lot of heckling, but someone shouted something very so offensive that I can't actually say it now at him, at which point he just gave up. But he gave up spectacularly, and he just ran towards the audience, who all flinched backwards, and he ran through him, out through the fire door, still with his bag on his head, and was never seen again.
Brilliant. See, those kind of things are, and there's a lot of those. Yeah, and I just think those stories are the ones comedians tell each other, because no one wants to hear about gigs going well. It's not interesting. Like, no, it's a running joke about the comedians who tell people stories about a gig going well, and everyone just sort of sits there and goes, "And yeah, what was the point of this? Yeah, tell me you died. Tell me you died. Tell me." There's a great one. My friend Barry Dodds, who's a lovely man, was doing one in a circus tent once. And because it was a circus tent, when you're emceeing, you kind of do, like, if I'd been in a circus tent, I would spent the whole time just doing circus stuff, emceeing the gig, because it's such an the thing is, it's so, what kind of bothered me with the circuit was you felt like going to the same rooms and stuff. I used to love going to like Dubai and the Middle East, the Far East, all these kind of tours, because you're doing somewhere different, and your brain was firing on stuff, where if you're just in the same room again and again, it's just a bit boring. But so he was in a circus tent, right? So he went half the room. He said, "Right, we're going to get you to make some noise instead of clapping. We're going to get you." So half the room, like, so you pick an animal. And this guy went tiger. So right, all this side of the room is going to do tiger noises. Like, I'll do tiger. Arr. And this side of the room, this guy went monkey. Like, oh, this side of the room, you're going to do monkey. I was like, whoo, right, brilliant. So ladies and gentlemen, and he got him to do that. So we'll do both of those. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your first act, the brilliant Junior Simpson. And then at the time, the most famous black comedian in Britain walked on, and half the room were making no monkey noises. And the promoter described it was the most amazing noise he'd ever heard, where people go, "Hoo, hoo," because they didn't know Junior Simpson was coming on. And like, they had and then it was that instant moment where they just went, "Oh my God, this is so awful." We didn't, and like Junior hadn't even paying attention to, he just walked out to monkey noises and went, "What the what?" And my favorite part of the story, what makes it brilliant, is Peter Vincent, the promoter, was laughing really hard, talking to Barry, going, "Did you understand what just went?" And he honestly, it never occurred to him. And he went, I don't know. What was the problem?" And he said, Barry's description was brilliant. Was this guy called Matt Ford, who was also on, another great comic. And he said he only realized how bad it was when like Peter Vincent's talking to him going, did you not think about it? And I said, what do you think? Because he just didn't click about the noises. And he just said, Matt's face just sort of popped up behind Peter and went, I'm texting everybody. And he just went, oh, what have I done?
Oh, shit. See, we've got a very interesting crowd of people who drop into this live stream. Mm-hmm. What tech for a Jasper Cup? We need to talk about this, Sam. That's interesting.
Yeah, I can well believe that, because certain comics, when you get to a certain level, they don't really get heckled anymore. I saw Billy Connolly bizarrely being unable to deal with the heckler.
Kind of, why should you have to, in a way? You know, I mean, I know some people see it as not just as a rite of passage, but it's kind of an integral part of a gig. But I never really quite. I mean, it was all right for me. I wrote a heckling song, you know. So yeah, it's an easy thing to do. But why should you have to? Just
yeah, it's always. I mean, it's people always. That's always things you must have got asked that as well. People always say about, oh, you're worried about hecklers, and you're like, really? I'm a professional comedian. This is some drunken idiot who's here on his office night out. If he can beat me, I shouldn't fucking be being paid to be up here. Now, like, we've all, but don't get me wrong, we've all had somebody land a proper good dig in, and the best thing you can do is acknowledge it and move on. Yeah. But most of the time, generally, you're sort of going, I've got a microphone. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if I can't win this, I always think Delaney was, because Gary has sort of got, but he used to be quite dark. He was like, Gary basically was brilliant at writing put downs because he writes one-liners. So Gary used to have a thing where if somebody started heckling him, he'd let him. He'd kind of bring him in. He'd almost make them look like they were winning. He'd basically rope-a-dope them. He'd let them, because the whole point was you need to make it look to the rest of the room like this person's being an arsehole and properly interrupting you. Because when you firmly establish that with the rest of the room, you can go to town. Yes. And you can do all the stuff about his mother, and you can do all that stuff once you've firmly established that he's the bad guy. And it's always him. It's always never a woman. No. But yeah, and Gary used rope-a-dope them, which was class. He used literally get him in. But yeah, most of it's honestly indifference. People not listening at all is the thing you fear. Them having a chat amongst themselves is when you're screwed. Yeah.
And that's actually takes us back to writing. And maybe that helps with that's kind of an instinct. If you've got the comedy background when you're writing, is you can tell. I don't know if I've definitely experienced this when I've actually literally been writing something, and I thought, I'm bored.
Yeah.
Okay, this is wrong, isn't it? I need to just rethink this scene because I'm bored with what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's something wrong here. This isn't working. Yeah.
So it's the little heckler inside your head's going, wanger.
Yeah.
But it was got no response.
Sam's thing, the Jasper Carrot thing. His fly was undone and he didn't have a comeback at all.
Well, surely there's a whole list of things.
Yeah. Reg Hunter, fine comedian. Reg used to go on stage deliberately with his flies open. And he used to do a whole bit about it. And he actually was hoping people would shout it out. And if they didn't, then he brought it up. Because he had a whole thing about going, why are people so upset about this? You can't see it. And sort of, he had a whole routine based around it. But I always remember him like literally making sure his fly was undone before he went on stage.
Yeah, I must admit, when the song really started working, if I hadn't been heckled by about 17 minutes into the set, I would ask to be heckled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to use the song.
Yeah, I used to have my favorite thing was somebody heckling me at the start of a gig, because my opening gag was always about how I looked. And bear in mind, when this was before the beard and stuff, I used to have this thing about Father Ted, and then it was sort of built on other things. But if somebody shouted something before I said anything, it was brilliant. Because then I remember in Leicester just destroying some guy who'd heard my voice of, fucking Paddy, which is, by the way, genuinely very rare. And the rest of the room went, ooh, and it was great because by the Delaney rule, he'd already proven himself to be the arsehole. Mm-hmm. And I went, really? You went with that? This turns up and you went with that? Let me tell you what you could have had. And I literally climbed off the stage with the microphone, sat down in the front row when a seat was available. I just went, just pretend I'm coming on stage there, right? Like, oh, Father turns to let himself go, and the whole room goes into uproar. And I'm like, see what you could have done, mate? And then I did another one, and then did another one. And by the end of it, this guy was just fucking destroyed. And he kept trying to say something back, and I just kept going, I've got a microphone. And like, you just couldn't. But that was, so I used to love that, because you look like you've improvised the whole thing and you're a genius. The reality is that was my opening line for fucking 1,000 gigs.
Once something like that happens, you know it might happen again, and it often does. And the confidence is all there.
Yeah.
Because you know you can do it. You've done it once.
And it's always, a lot of that was experience where you've had it in the bank, where you sort of go, when you see something happen, you go, all right. And you learn from that. And it kind of works in writing and stuff as well, when you get yourself in certain situations, that you do learn how to deal with it and stuff. Have we done an hour? Jesus.
I can't believe it, but we have. So I think we're
anyway, in summary, Douglas Adams, very good.
Yeah, we both like Douglas Adams. Terry Pratchett's great too. I hope you enjoyed our talk about writing. Yeah. And I think I'm just going to finish by thank you, Caimh. That was great. I think if people enjoy it, we should do it again sometime, because it's actually a really good idea to waffle about things other than writing, but just because everything comes into it anyway. Yeah, everything you've done, everything you still do feeds into your writing, and it's all useful stuff. But I think we should end on a slightly more serious note with one of the comments that we missed earlier from Andrew Chapman here, which put our works into perspective. There we go. There's an instructional video on YouTube called How to Touch a Wall with an Apple. It's 3 seconds long, and it's probably sold more than both of our books. Oh, it's been seen more than both of our book sales combined many times over, I should imagine. I don't know about you. I'm off to watch it.
Oh, God, yeah. Weirdly, by the way, genuinely, there's an Edinburgh show that was a legendary thing, which was, I never saw it, but it was only did it once. They did it like once a year, and the show was called Young Man Dressed as a Gorilla, Dressed in a Suit, Sitting in a Chair, Smoking a Pipe, Reading a Book. And it was 55 minutes of someone just in that outfit, sitting on a stage, smoking a pipe, reading a book. And it was one of those things where people laughed, and then it was like, and then he turned the page and people started laughing again, like after 10 or 15 minutes. And it was like completely anti-comedy, but it got heavily reviewed.
I bet it did. I love it.
And it was like one of these things where it was sort of became, who is it? Who did the thing? And it was just, people fucking love that. Yeah. So there you go.
That's genius.
Anyway, we can all, I'm sure we've all recorded London Irish versus Leicester, and well done, everyone avoiding the spoilers. So I'm now going to go off and watch that. I know we all have, so fingers crossed for the boys.
Obviously, don't text. I might not get to see it till later tonight, so don't text the score or anything,
Yeah.
Enjoy it, and thanks for dropping in. And we'll say goodbye to everybody all at the same time. We'll see you next week, everyone else. And maybe I'm not going to be able to follow this, but that's just the way it goes. See you next time.
Bye. See you. Bye.